We are live now.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Conversation with Sam. Before beginning on the today's topic about decentralized economic models, let me just brief you through last week's case study. Like we were discussing about cost models to create jobs in districts in India. So we have started on a sample survey on a sample district, and we have also worked out different models like which will help like what sort of jobs are needed in that sample district, and also the cost model which will be useful to create those jobs. So we are working on it, and we hope that many of you will join us in this project. Let us know in the comments. So today's episode, we will discuss about decentralized economic models. We'll discuss about the core principles behind decentralized systems, the factors that influence their design and implementation, and how such models can better respond to local needs while staying aligned with the global objectives. We'll also walk through a sample case study of a district illustrating how a decentralized economic model can promote inclusive growth, sustainability, and self reliance. So, if you're a student or a policymaker or entrepreneur, or simply just curious like me about the future of our economy, this session will be useful to you. So, without further ado, I would now request Sam sir to carry over this session. Thank you.
Thank you, Priyamvada. Thank you, Pendra. Greetings to everyone. As you know, we have been talking about circular economy, decentralized economy, localization, globalization, and variety of issues looking for some better answers. Unfortunately, as we discussed earlier, economy is so very complex subject. We have tried to make a science out of it, but on the ground, the realities are very different. It affects politics, it affects social setup, local consideration, local core competence, resources, and a lot of these issues cannot be quantified, put it in an equation properly. So it's always a challenge to create one model that sort of generalizes as much as you can. Unfortunately, I have learned a very hard lesson in life that nothing is black and white. Everything is about gray areas. And it is in those gray areas how you play, how you organize, how you structure, how you understand that really separates winners from losers. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about an idea that we have sort of mentioned in the past about district level decentralization. And we'll go into a lot more details. The real credit goes to Upendra, who did all the work on AI to sort of create a roadmap, find some answers. But again, I want to warn you that these are not the answers you can run with. This is just a way of looking at it, and things will look different from country to country, state to state, district to district. But this is an approach or a template that one could use using AI for your own district. As you know, in India, there are roughly 700 districts. for 1.4 billion people. So Upendra and I thought that maybe on an average, you can take 2 million people per district. But then there are districts with 4 million people, and there are districts with probably 400,000 people. So what we have done here is to really look at a district, look at resources, core competence, and then ask some fundamental questions as to if the district was 2 million people, how many doctors you need, how many teachers you need, how many nurses you need, how many engineers, scientists, lawyers, street workers, manufacturing people, and see if that makes little sense. But before going into that, we also looked at that out of 2 million people in a district or whatever the population is, how many are children who can't work? How many are older people? How many are women? Because in India, only 10 to 20% of the women work. So if you take a 2 million people district and eliminate children or put on site as non-workers, children, old people, and 80% of the women, what's the working population like? So these are the kind of questions we have asked. If you are interested, you can do the same exercise on your own in your district and get better understanding. And I think ultimately we need to do this exercise for every district, show it to local experts, local people, get their input and advice, and create a document for district, which is a dynamic document, and see where the gaps are. Immediately you will know that you don't have enough teachers in this district. You don't have enough health workers in the district. You don't have enough lawyers in the district. You don't have enough judges in the district, and so on and so forth. So Upendra has created this. I'm going to go through it. I would really like Upendra to join in whenever he can, because it is mostly his work and credit goes to him that he has been able to put together this on a very short notice, maybe a couple of days. Okay. So let's go through executive summary. And it's a long presentation. So we'll have to go through it very quickly. And maybe we can have a couple of sessions on this if you all agree. So centralized top-down model often overlooks realities on the ground in terms of what talent you have, what capabilities you have, what needs you have. So distributed economy reimagines purpose-driven, ethically grounded, adaptive system deeply embedded in local culture, geography, demography, and context. The idea here is to treat each district as a valuable, self-sustaining, productive unit with its own socio-economic ecosystem to benefit local communities. That doesn't mean every district can make everything, but then district can start looking at the neighborhood districts and see what is that they can make, that they can buy, sell, then expand from neighboring district to other districts in the state, then other states. So it's basically a rather than top-down approach, it's a bottom-up approach. Top-down approach says, here is a big businessman, you give him 700-acre land in some district and say, now set up a power plant, solar power plant. As opposed to saying, every district should have their own solar plant. They should decide where the land is and not government to give cheap land to somebody. Because my main concern with solar is really the land use. In a country like India, where land is so precious, you can't afford to have thousands of acres on solar farm. But these are the local considerations. So districts should focus on local competence, their freedom, their flexibility, their resources, and their accountability. Be strategically aligned with the state, national, and global goals. Create local jobs, train local talent, build local infrastructure, and bring investment and funds for projects in their district. Employment here is not treated as mere economic necessity, but as a pathway to collective growth, development, well being, and ultimately peace and prosperity for all. This is the basic idea. And we have tried our best to take the first step to translate this into some specific numbers to be able to grasp the issue. And sometimes issues are so big that you can't put your arms around. And if you can't put your arms around, you never feel comfortable. So the methodology we used said to develop a district specific workforce plan by estimating number of types and distribution of jobs needed for sustainability, development, and growth. We looked at these key components. Estimate employable population. As I mentioned before, focus on people who can be employed in a meaningful way. And we decided to organize under 8 comprehensive job categories. Could be 10, could be 12. We did 8, again, just to put our arms around. And one could argue and say, look, 8 is not enough. This is not the right. But I think this sort of addresses 80% of the problem. Agriculture and food is one category. Education, health, construction, services, infrastructure, governance, business, and industry. Then using weighted job framework tailored to the unique profile of each district is very important. So we looked at that. We also looked at cultural barriers, sectorial strength, and we took 4 districts just to play with. One is Vadodara, where I went to college. It is sort of a industrial education town that Maharaja Sayaji Rao built in 1910, 20, 30 in a very well organized way. Then a Balangir district, a district where I was born, which is very poor, tribal, just like Kalahandi, next to Kalahandi. So these were 2 extremes that I could think of immediately. And since I was familiar with both of them, I thought it'd be good to take these 2 as an example where I can add some nuances and familiarity that I have to really look at this larger picture. Then we looked at Gurgaon. Again, very modern urban districts, and Bangalore, which is also very modern. And these are the 8 job categories. And in those categories, when you look at agriculture and food, you're looking at farmers, food processing industry, restaurants, water management, forest workers, mandis, fertilizer. So you can fine tune again agricultural workers by dividing them into perhaps 10 categories. So when I gave a list to Upendra, I almost had about 75 different jobs categories defined. In school also, you have administration job, you have school teacher, you have vocational education teacher, you have big professors and research people and all that. Healthcare, nurse and doctor and Anganwadi and pharmacies and hospital management and all that. Construction, same thing. You know, carpenter, blacksmith, plumber, mason, painter, welder. So you can further architect and you can further fine tune these jobs. Professional services, infrastructure, government and security. In government, you can probably come up with 20, 30 categories of jobs. Manufacturing, retail. So the idea was to really lump it into 8, 10 categories, maybe 150 different categories of jobs. Okay. Then we also felt that the district similarly has to be dissected in terms of rural, semi-rural, urban, manufacturing type, coastal districts, hilly areas and tribal districts, knowledge hub, and heritage district with pilgrimage and all. Again, these may not be the right categories. I'm sure government has their own way of looking at districts. And again, this is just a guideline. Okay. Then we went into the details of the district. What does rural or semi-rural district look like? What is the characteristics? And what will be the influence on the job? What kind of jobs are available? You can't look at rural districts and say, I want 50 scientists in material research. It's not possible. At this stage, at least. Maybe in the future it would be possible. Okay. So we went through district details. Go ahead. Next. Yeah. So in summary, we said these are the types of districts. These are plus jobs and these are minus jobs. In other words, IT, design, and finance jobs may not make much sense in rural area, and farmer job will not make sense in middle of Bangalore or Vadodara. Okay. That doesn't mean there won't be a need for Mali in Bangalore. So, nothing is black and white. Keep that in mind all the time. The beauty of India is that whatever I say, you can disagree with me and you are 100% right. That's the kind of situation we are dealing with here when we talk about dissecting districts, dissecting jobs, categorizing. Then we looked at geographical consideration. There are areas where water is plenty, forest cover is very large. India is divided into many agricultural climate zones. We are all aware of that. Okay. But there are areas for tourism. There are areas which are well connected by road and train. And there are areas which are very remote. You go to Northeast, you will realize that there is very little connectivity. You go to Gujarat, where I spent a lot of time, the connectivity is fantastic. It has been like that for a long time. Even 50 years ago, there were good roads and you could just drive around, pretty well. Now, it's even much better. So states vary, districts vary. And that's why we need to be very, very conscious of the local considerations, local ecosystem, local talent pool, local needs, local markets, and local overall core competence. Thank you. Next. Then there are cultural consideration, you know, strong family structure, community structure. If you have a town which is, or the district which is full of religious places, then you have a lot of festivals and spiritual activities. Then there are areas where, there are textile industries. There are Madhubani painting group of people. So traditional craft, artisan, I know in Kutch, for example, there are villages after villages creating all kinds of interesting handicraft, and which is true in Andhra, and which is true in Telangana, and which is true in Karnataka, Kerala, and Bihar, and everywhere. Then gender roles. Some places are more liberal than others. Okay. And how people respect elders and teachers. The other day I had a couple of people from India, uh, and they want to get some help from me in getting politicians to their functions where they are going to recognize and reward politicians. And I said, what's the idea? They said, oh, we want to motivate people. I said, are you out of your mind? That by rewarding politicians, you're going to motivate people? I said, people are not stupid. They know that politicians have no credibility with them. Overall, why should you reward politicians? In a sense, they were trying to get closer to politicians. I said, look, if you're really serious, why don't you reward teachers? Select the best teachers in the district, have a big function and give award to 5 teachers, and have politicians sit there and watch. They were surprised. They said, oh, we didn't think like that. I said, teacher is something who can motivate kids, not politician. So, a lot of these issues come in the play when you are trying to design a program like this. So, female labor force today, based on the information available in India, is probably 10 to 50% in urban areas, but in tribal and rural areas could be 40 to 50% because women work very hard there. They go to field, they cook at home, they take care of cattle, uh, they do lots of things. Okay, so you can't say that women workforce in India is just 10 to 15% everywhere. Okay. Then you have to really look at these issues in terms of education level, cultural norms, safety and security. Do women feel safe in going to work at night or be on their own on roads? What are the government programs for female workforce? Narega is one big scheme. Anganwadi is another big scheme. So a lot of these things play into the equation. So as we told you earlier, we took these 4 examples of district, and we also looked at female workforce in these districts. As you can see, um, Balangir Kalahandi is 45%, could be. Gurgaon could be 18 to 20% because it's urban. So the idea here is to give you a feel for the differences. Next, demography by age. If you have 2 million people, 25% are going to be children, 10% are going to be older people. So you can say 30% children, 10%. So 40% is gone. You have 60% of the population as workforce. So if you had million people, you have 600,000 working class. Of that, 300,000 are women and 300,000 are men. Then you say, okay, 20% of the women in this area would be working, or 40%. And you look at that as the workforce. And the idea is, of that workforce, how many should be teacher? How many should be angarwadi? How many should be plumber, electrician, welders? And then when you begin to dissect this in a variety of form, you realize what you need. But you also need investment to create these jobs. You can't say, I need 50 welders. But what do you do with these welders? Where do they work? Who hires them? Who is building homes to hire welders? Where is the investment coming from? So all of these things have to be integrated. Next. So similarly, we took districts examples and saw that urban districts, go ahead. What happened? Yeah.
No, no, actually, it's back.
Okay. And we looked at, industrial districts, semi-rural districts, and roughly we think 50 to 60% is the working population. Pretty close. So if you take 50%, you're okay. Next. Other consideration for decentralized economy, we talked about that: market access, urban-rural mix, skill development, uh, roads, electricity. If you don't have access to good roads, uh, jobs will get affected. Okay. Leadership. What kind of leaders we have in the district, at panchayat level, at local level? Okay. Are they really cornering off all the resources? And is there too much corruption, too much nepotism? All these things matter. Next. So now we thought we take one district and go through it. Now there are two ways we can approach this. One, we have already spent 30 minutes talking about this overall thing. Maybe we spend more time now in discussion on this and then take districts next week, go into details. Otherwise, it'll be 1 hour of presentation, which I don't like. I have no problem with it. Okay. But I think if we discuss now all the issues which sort of frame the conversation here in terms of job market, districts, decentralization, job categories, male, female, working population, uh, district types, then maybe next week we can take 4 districts for which we have lots of slides that Upendra has worked very hard on, and we can go over it. What's the opinion here? Do you want to continue? Do you want to have question answers? Priyambada,
So
what do you
Maybe
we,
we
think?
can
yeah,
talk about some of the foundation things as well. So I was thinking about again, the idea here is it's a distributed yet connected economy.
Right.
There could be some jobs which are more but less people available because of all the considerations that you just talked about. Now there could be even some places where there is surplus of people available too. So what is that thread that or what is that model that goes from bottoms up to connect all this distributed economy models?
Mhm. But the question I have right now is, should we really stop here today and have a broader conversation on what we have discussed so far? Priyambada,
uh,
what's What's the
Yes, we have like a couple of questions, but if you want, like we can continue with an example, or we have like I can pose one question. Like Nagender, he's asking, it is an he's basically saying it is an effective bottoms up planning methodology, and Kerala has introduced similar approach at the village level through people's planning campaign initiated in 1996. And he says it's a successful program, so the lesson learned from this campaign may be valuable for our project which we are
good
undergoing right now.
good comment, Nagendra? I think Kerala is a good example. But we looked at it from the viewpoint of what can AI do today. You see, when Kerala did that program, it was grounds up, much more accurate, perhaps. But now we have different sets of tools. And Kerala really never focused enough on manufacturing. Kerala always focused more on service jobs. Rightfully so, education, health was very important. But as a result, Kerala could not attract any industry. Plus, to some extent, communist governments uh, scarce some of the industrialists, and they don't want to put that kind of investment. Kerala has a huge challenge, according to me, on um, garbage disposal. I remember once I was there for some conference, and Prime Minister was going to come, Dr. Manmohan Singh, speaking at the same conference. And there were police lined up on the road. And I was also in the car, and I see everywhere there is police standing, in the back of it is a pile of garbage. I just couldn't resist that scene, as if the police is guarding that garbage. It was that kind of garbage collection piled up in Kerala. Maybe that was some strike or something, but it was very visible that day. Yeah. So Kerala is a good example. I agree with Nagendra, and we should look at that.
So, just in your previous slides, you said that there's a lack of women, in some of the districts where we we want women participation more. So, how do you? What's your suggestion for bringing more women, on board? Whether it's employment or other sectors, we
I
find
think
it's
cultural issues play an important role. You know, in our society, there are restrictions uh, based on how we relate to each other, and that doesn't allow women to really come out. Um, 40, 45 years ago, when we were working on immunization, we learned hard way that women's name is not registered in the list. There was manual list in those days. So women will go there with a child, and the fellow who is immunizing would ask the name of her husband. And culturally, she's not supposed to speak his name. Now we have Mexican standoff almost. The guy is saying, "What is the name of the father?" And she can't answer. And the guy says, "Wait a minute, how do I proceed with this?" It's a dumb little thing. So we introduced then that mother's name must be on the register. These are the kind of issues we run into. Sometimes you think about it, sometimes you don't even think about these things. So it is through education, it is through conversation, it is through explaining to elders that it's okay for young women to work. Similarly, we had in Rajasthan, we had a lady in that village. She just got married and came to this village, and she had high school diploma. She was ready to go to college. And she wanted to work. And her mother-in-law will not allow her to work. Then came literacy mission. And we found her and she said, look, I'll make my entire village literate. You give me opportunity. He said, no problem. I'll work day and night and I'll make sure my village is 100% literate. So we went to her Sass, mother-in-law. And her initial reaction was, no way, my daughter-in-law is not going to go to other people's house and meet with all the men and everybody. You know, she said, I will not allow. Then we had to explain to her what it would mean that. And then finally she agreed. And this girl, in her 20s, really worked very hard to make her village literate. Okay. I mean, there are so many examples like this. Okay. So each one is different. Okay. Now, if you don't fight with her mother-in-law, you lose a chance of that woman to participate, feel empowered. She was so charged up, okay, that I get a recognition that I can go out and I can, mingle with people and I can, dress up properly and all that rather than just being stuck to the, kitchen. So you have to empower women. You have to facilitate, they're very capable. Questions?
So yeah, so there is just like a comment from Kiran Kumari saying he's happy to be on board and he would like to join this project. So he's thanking you for this initiative. And also one of the comments was that there is always chaos in decentralization. So how would we address because centralization is like authority and controlled. So in a country like India, they say that it will cause chaos if there is a lot of decentralization, because people would just don't work on their own way, and there will be no like a streamlined approach. So how do we address this challenge?
I think it's a larger challenge. It's a democracy versus dictatorship. Okay. Do you want a dictator to tell you what to do, when to do, how to do it? And do you want everybody to be waiting for orders from the top? Or you want to empower people? The beauty of democracy is every human being is treated with respect, dignity, and is empowered to do their own thing. That is really, to me, the meaning of life. Meaning of life is not to live my life according to what somebody else is going to dictate. But meaning of life is for me to live life the way I define, provided I follow certain social norms. I don't go on killing everybody. I don't go on hurting everybody. I don't go on cheating everybody. I follow certain norms of the society, of decency, truth, trust, love. That's what democracy is all about. And there is some amount of inefficiency. But that inefficiency cannot be seen in terms of just productivity and efficiency. It has to be seen in terms of individual satisfaction. I would love to live life in a free society than in a fascist society. Okay. So you have to really have clarity on what you value. Okay. Some people would say, look, I don't value truth as long as it makes money for me. If I can cheat people and make money, I don't care about truth. And some people would say, look, I don't agree with that. I don't want to cheat anybody and lie. I would live with little less money. So ultimately, everything in life, according to me, boils down to what you value. If you don't value, children, you abuse them. If you don't value women, you abuse them. If you don't value your, cook at home, you abuse them. You know, people do that all the time and they don't even see it that way. Okay. A lot of rich people, for example, how do they treat people working for them? They don't even think. I've seen people slapping their servants. I mean, how can you do that? Okay. And poor guy is just standing there being slapped. And if there was somebody else, he'll slapped it back, saying you may be boss, but that doesn't give you right to slap me. So ultimately, it boils down to what you value in life. You know, I don't know whether I've answered the question.
Yes, sir, you have. Just so we can continue with your one of the case studies from like Vadodara,
Okay, so
Gujarat.
let's take one district, Vadodara,
Yeah,
move forward, and then we can have more questions and deeper conversation.
yeah,
So Vadodara is a urban and industrialized district. Okay, it is a second tier city, very important city in Gujarat, um, located on a river, Viswamitri, very well connected to roads, train, trains going to Gujarat and trains going to from Mumbai to Delhi, and connections everywhere. Um Regular, frequent connections to Mumbai because that's the main economic power center in India. So you hop in a train in the evening, late night, 10, 11, and you are in Mumbai at 4, 5 o'clock. Okay. Uh, Also, airport. Okay. And in 60s, there were very large projects, refinery, Koili refinery, IPCL. So it became a center of chemical industry. It is an excellent university. I would say used to be excellent. All English medium. Um, Beautiful campuses that Maharaja Sayaji Rao had built. It has been sort of deteriorating in terms of quality of education and all for quite some time now. In my time, there was very good medical college. Um, in Chicago, for example, I think there'll be probably 500 doctors from Baroda, minimum. In some cities, there are 2,000 doctors from Baroda in America. Okay. So it's a pretty prosperous district. Next. Strong cultural heritage, Maharashtrian culture as well as Gujarati culture, because Gaikwad was Maharashtrian. So people speak Marathi as well as they speak Gujarati. You know, home to MS University, cosmopolitan, because of all these industries. You have Japanese and you have French and you have Germans and everybody. Large number of NGOs, schools, colleges, hospitals, everything. Next. Good active municipalities and pretty safe. At least in my generation, it was very safe city. You could, walk. We used to have drama practice, and about 2 o'clock in the morning every day, um, bunch of us, boys and girls, will go have pakoda and tea at 2 in the morning, and then we'll all walk home at 3 or so. Routine. Okay. No issues at all. Okay. So in that city, or the district, the population is pretty big, 4.8 million people, which is double the population of an average district in India. And these are the jobs distributed, you know, so many percent in healthcare, so many in agricultural, so many in business and industry and all. Okay. Again, this is typical. We need to look at the realities on the ground today, and then we need to project saying, how do we increase jobs in this area? Yeah. And many times you will find that you don't have people. So on one hand, you have people looking for job. On the other hand, you don't have people for the job. Next. So district profile, 2.6 employable people. Primary language Gujarati, Hindi, and English, but I think there should be Marathi also in there because of Gaikwad. Marathi was very prominent. Climate, connectivity, there are lots of opportunities. Okay, thanks. Next. Yeah. So you can see here various categories in agriculture and food. So Upendra has divided further agriculture and food into 9 jobs. Could be 10, could be 12. Okay. But you look at the farmer and food processing and restaurant would be big, and cooks. Okay. So how do you train more people to be malis and all? How do you train more people for restaurant work, for food processing, for mandis? And what is the impact of technology on some of these jobs? Is a question we have to constantly ask. Next. Education jobs. They are just in 5 categories. It could be in many more, because in education also you need security people. Okay. You need transportation people to drive buses and all. But this is the basic idea. Okay. Next. You will see that first 2-3 categories take up predominant piece. So health worker are 4%. Okay. Nurses are 2.5%. So you focus on nurses, doctors, health workers, and Anganwadi. And you've covered a lot of it. Next. Construction. Okay. There you will find that carpenter, plumber, electrician, bricklayers, cleaner, all they are basically same. Laborer. Okay. You need equal amount of all of these to make things happen. If you don't have electrician, job will be pending. If you don't have plumber, job would be pending. So you got to really synchronize all these workers to finish construction in time. Next. Service jobs. I mean, you have engineers, bankers, scientists, insurance, design, consultants, advisors, whatever. And there also you will see that the distribution is pretty much same, 2-3%. Okay. Same in transport, telecom, railways, power, hospitality. Look at the kind of jobs we need to create. There's so many categories,
One very interesting here is this new media, so these are the
Media.
and new media as well, sir, which is more around the social media and all.
Absolutely. These
So
are new
there
jobs.
are jobs to be expected here as well. It calls the model calls out around 24,000.
Mhm.
Now we don't know what percentage of that is already there, and that
Yep.
could be the opportunity there.
Absolutely. Government jobs, police, security. Look at the number. Okay. Yep. Next. So then we look at this industry category, which could really be expanded. We have maybe 15, 20 categories, but you could even have more. Manufacturing, marketing, sales, distribution, logistics, retail, entrepreneurs, startups, shop owners, art, craft, textile, clothing, project management, IT, software, leather, furniture. You can, look at many different categories. But you got to dissect further to really get better handle on it. Next.
Uh, that's it for Vadodara, sir.
Okay. So now if you take a district like this and look at all these jobs and analyze, and then say, what does it take to create one job? A simple example would be the housing shortage in India. There is a huge amount of housing shortage, not only in India, but even in America today. We have a major housing crisis in America. My generation could afford to buy a house from first or second job. Today, young people cannot afford to buy a house from first or second job. The first home that I bought in America in 1970, around that time, was $31,000. Guess what? 3-bedroom townhouse with basement, which we built. Ultimately, it was unfinished. So my younger brother and I, you know, spent 2 months working on designing and buying stuff and building basement on our own. Today, you can't buy anything for $300,000, $400,000. So housing is a big industry, even in India. Upgrading your home, improving your doors, expanding little space. If you're more family members, buying better furniture. How many jobs you can create in housing and construction? How many more jobs you can create in health? How many more jobs you can create in education? So it really requires leadership at a local level to create jobs. Art and craft is another big unexplored territory. It is not seen as an industry, but to me, it's an industry. It's a huge industry in India, art and craft. Okay. It could be a major export earner too. Look at what Chinese have done. I've seen even Gadpati coming from China. I've seen all the saris coming from China. Okay. Why is that? Because they had this imagination and they could produce at lower cost and large volumes. Okay. So jobs have to be created by local imagination, local entrepreneurs, local leadership, local investment. And waiting for top to create jobs hasn't worked in the past. And I don't think we have learned our lesson from past experiences that unless and until we decentralize a lot of these things, we will have this inequality. World over, you have this problem where very few have lots of wealth. And we have created more billionaires, but we have created more millions and millions poor. And that's the challenge in this whole model. Okay. So maybe we can look at other districts next week and also continue with some questions on this. Does it make sense? Do you
Yes,
think,
sir. It's
do you think it is
absolutely
worth
right.
having a conversation like this?
Yes, sir. It is because we should, reflect what's going on in the country, and like it will be helpful if for for youngsters like us to contribute. Like this gives a like a roadmap or a plan if we want to, do something about the situation in our
I would
country.
like some of our younger people to really take on the district that they come from, their parents came from, their grandfather came from.
Yeah,
Take that district, go on ChatGPT or other AI
yeah,
and create their own model, saying what is it today, what should it be tomorrow, how to get there. Every
yeah,
district should have a plan, and young people
abs-
can make that plan. Okay,
absolutely. So, but just can you, before we end the show, could you
sure.
just like reflect on the cost of like of creation, like job creation, like how we address this challenge,
I think
the
we have
cost.
done some work. Um, you have that slide, Upendra?
Yes, let me bring it up.
Yeah. But that also varies from district to district.
Mm,
Yeah. So Upendra looked at what does it take to create one new job for farmer, food processor, restaurant, teacher, and all that. Okay. Go ahead. For example, to create one job for a doctor is a lot of investment.
mm,
Okay. In agriculture, if you have to take land into consideration, it is very expensive to create one job because you need land. But if you know how to use that land for multiple purpose, new technology, drip irrigation, you can employ more people on the same land and create more wealth. See,
absolutely, sir. So we would need
here we are
like,
coming to numbers.
yeah,
Yeah. So we have some estimate. What does it take to create one job as for a teacher? 2 lakh rupees. Maybe it will change from district to district again. Our goal is to minimize investment required to create one job. From our studies in 80s, I can tell you that the best way to create job is construction. Construction industry creates a lot of local jobs. Doesn't require foreign investment. Of course, requires land, but you can go vertical. Okay, in India, you have to go vertical. There's no way out because there isn't enough land.
mm,
And when you go vertical, you can free land for public use. You know, earlier we were against going vertical because the English model was keep 4 or 5 stories only. But we don't have enough land. If you go vertical, you can have a football field for children to play and a park. Okay. So there are trade-offs. How much vertical you go, where do you go vertical, where do you restrict, height. If it is, earthquake zone, you probably restrict height, but now the technology is available to build skyscrapers in earthquake zone, you know, and the buildings are floating on a roller. Yeah. So all of that is possible. You can see here, these numbers maybe need more work and refinement, but you can get some handle on how much investment is required to create one job. Okay. And you got to really approach it from investment direction, need direction, local consideration. All of these things have to be packaged. And you have to try different things. You have to experiment. You have to prototype. Some will work, some will not work. Okay. The idea is to create jobs at the lowest possible investment, yeah, so that
and so
every district has full employment.
yeah. So do you think it is like this is feasible just by like a few group of individuals, or do you think like the government has to come into play in some
It all
instance?
depends. Once you do good work, government will come in the play. But somebody has to take the lead. You have to light the fire.
Yeah.
Who's going to light the fire? Don't expect government to light the fire.
Yeah.
But if there was one young champion or five young people got together and say, we are going to do this, then everybody will join.
True.
See, Gandhiji used to say, if you do good work, people come from the ground and join you.
Absolutely, sir. So yeah, so we'll keep this conversation for next week as well. We'll continue with another districts. I would request our viewers to come up with their own models and their own districts and can get back to us.
We have three more districts to go through. Upendra
Yeah,
has done a great job. Thanks, Upendra. It is your presentation. You did all the work.
Oh, it's all your guidance, sir. Thank you so much. And I think like we can you can probably walk through the basis for the cost model actually, and maybe go into little
Okay,
details next
maybe
time.
next week we can do that.
Yeah, yeah,
yes, sir.
absolutely.
Okay. So thank you everyone, those who are listening to us and watching us on YouTube and the rest other social media channels. Thank you, sir, for this enriching discussion.
Thank you. And
I'm
I'm sure
sure,
we would hear something from economists. We have in this
absolutely.
group some students of economy and all.
Yeah,
They'll help us fine tune this, critique it,
yeah,
ask the questions we haven't asked, and we'll learn together. Okay.
absolutely. Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
we meet next week then. Thank
Yeah,
you.
and we continue this
Thank you.
next week.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Upendra. Thanks, Premada.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, sir.
everyone, for
Thanks,
joining.